In 2023, Pima County signed an agreement it could not talk about. 5 years of secrecy. It named the corporation and barred the county from telling its own staff. The residents who would drink the water were never told. 2 years later, on the 6th of August, 2025, the Tucson City Council voted 7-0 to refuse it. Cities do not do this. The project carried $3.6 billion of investment and about $97 million in city tax revenue, and the council voted it down, knowing exactly what it was giving up. What almost nobody outside Tucson has heard is what happened afterward. What actually happens when an American city refuses to sell its water to a data center. Here's what Tucson won, what it lost, and what it never controlled. If you are learning something new here, subscribe. Comeback Atlas is just getting started. Stakes. What was actually at stake here? Start with the secrecy, because that is what turned a zoning fight into a revolt. The agreement Pima County signed ran from March of 2023 for 5 years, or until the project was complete. It contained the name of the company behind what everyone was told to call Project Blue, and it committed the county to withhold that name even from its own personnel unless it was legally forced to hand it over. Read the next clause slowly. If a member of the public filed a records request for the name, the corporation was entitled to 10 days' notice first, so that it could go to court and try to block the request. A county government agreed to give a private company a head start against its own residents. A county official later described it as the most far-reaching agreement of its kind the county had encountered in recent memory. Now the water. As drafted, the primary site would have taken 440 acre-feet a year in its first phase. At full build across both sites, 1,910 acre-feet a year. That is about 622 million gallons, which is roughly the annual water use of 8,400 Tucson households. A town of 21,000 people made of one company's cooling system. And here's the part that made Tucson specifically furious. Tucson is not a wasteful city. Residents there use somewhere between 76 and 83 gallons per person per day. The Arizona average is about 146. This is a city that spent 40 years learning to live on less, that put curb cuts in its streets to catch rain, that built a reclaimed water system as a drought hedge over decades. The draft agreement would have committed about 6% of that entire reclaimed system to one customer for 20 years, so the arithmetic residents were asked to accept was this. You cut your showers, you let your lawn die, you paid for the recycled water network, and a company you are not allowed to name gets 6% of it, negotiated in a room you were not in. By June of 2025, people had found out. They had 6 weeks. Has a project been approved near you before anyone told you what it was? And did you ever find out who signed off on it? The work. How 6 weeks beat a $3 billion project. It started with a walk. In late June, a group gathered at Sentinel Peak, the hill Tucsonans call a mountain, for what organizers called a walk and talk about the land. Within days, there was a signal group, and then a name, the No Desert Data Center Coalition. Vivek Barathan became its most quoted voice. The desert, he said before the vote, is no place for a water-guzzling, energy-draining, heat-generating monster. Lee Zishi, a co-chair of Tucson's Democratic Socialists of America, described the method with unusual honesty. Talk to literally everybody you know, she said, because by the time your community finds out about the data center, they have been working on it for years. In July, Arizona Luminaria, a nonprofit newsroom in Tucson, went at it through public records and reported that Amazon Web Services was the company behind Project Blue. The agreement itself was not published until October, 2 months after the vote, so residents fought the thing while still officially not being told who owned it. On the 23rd of July, a community meeting at Pima Mountain High School drew several hundred people. Turnout ran so far past expectation that 2 more had to be added. Then the 6th of August. More than 100 people filled the council chamber, many in red shirts, chanting 3 words, "Not one drop." Karen Ulich, the Ward 6 council member, made the motion. Lane Santa Cruz seconded it. Santa Cruz put the case in a sentence. "We need to be the city," she said, "that says not here, not now, and not like this." 7 votes. No dissent. The rounding error. Here's the objection, and half of it is correct. Every data center in Arizona together was projected to use about 2,700 acre-feet in 2025. That is under 0.1% of the state's water. Arizona agriculture dwarfs it. So Tucson torched billions in investment, 180 permanent jobs, and $97 million in tax revenue over a rounding error. At state scale, that is true. But here is what nobody expected. Project Blue alone, at full build, was 1,910 acre-feet a year. 69% of what every data center in the state used that year. One project, the 0.1% is a photograph of a starting line, and this was the thing about to move it. The numbers at the right scale. The state figure is the wrong denominator. Tucson is not Arizona. Tucson Water delivers roughly 30 billion gallons a year to about 730,000 people. Project Blue's 622 million gallons is about 2% of everything that utility delivers and about 6% of the reclaim system specifically. A number that is invisible statewide is structural locally. That is the honest shape of it. Then there is the electricity, which the water debate keeps hiding. The average single data center request now landing at Arizona Public Service is 500 megawatts, enough for roughly 375,000 homes. One customer. The utility holds about 30,000 megawatts of such requests against a system that peaks near 8,200, nearly 4 times its peak load. And water does not disappear when you switch to air cooling. National laboratory work puts the water consumed generating electricity for American data centers at roughly 12 times what the buildings use directly. Air cooling moves the water off the books. It does not take it out of the watershed. Mayor Regina Romero framed the job precisely. "It is my responsibility," she said, "to create guardrails to protect Tucson from this industry that is already here in Arizona." The expansion. What the refusal actually set off. 2 weeks after the vote, Tucson adopted an ordinance requiring any user expecting to exceed 7.4 million gallons a month to apply to the council directly and submit a conservation plan. On the 3rd of September, Pima County changed its own rules to require a company's name be disclosed before any vote. Then the other direction. In December, Amazon Web Services withdrew. The Corporation Commission approved a power agreement for the site 4-1. And on Christmas Eve, the developer closed on the land anyway, waiving the annexation condition its own vice president had called a condition precedent to closing. In January, the coalition sued the county. In April, a judge dismissed the suit. That same month, construction began, and about 40 people stood in front of the trucks. Barathon, at the fence 9 months after the win, we really believed that we had protected our community, protected the water, protected the land, and now we are here, and they are killing living desert. In May, The city caught the contractor trucking Tucson drinking water out to the site and shut it off. What Tucson teaches us. So, state it plainly. Tucson did not stop Project Blue. It is under construction right now on county land the city never controlled, drawing power from a utility the city does not run, on wells the state approved in May. The vote blocked annexation and city water. It did not block the project, and anyone telling you a city council killed a data center is selling you something. And yet, the wells the developer actually got approved total 96.5 acre-feet a year. About 31 million gallons, roughly 5% of what the original plan wanted. On water specifically, the thing residents actually organized around, the opposition substantially won. The design changed. The draw collapsed. The city kept its pipe, its reclaim system, and its ordinance, which leaves the honest lesson, and it is narrower and more useful than a victory. Tucson could not stop the data center. It could only decide whose water it was built on. And that turned out to be the only decision that was ever really on the table. Which part surprised you most? The clause giving a corporation 10 days notice before a records request? That one project equaled 2/3 of the state's data center water use? Or that it got built anyway? Tell me in the comments and subscribe to Comeback Atlas.